Pam Bondi walked into her husband's luxury hotel expecting a quiet stay. What she got instead was a cold rejection from a woke receptionist who had no idea who she was really talking to. What happened next? It shocked the entire hotel and the internet. It all started on a quiet Thursday afternoon at one of Florida's most luxurious beachfront hotels, an exclusive resort known for its ocean views, white glove service, and high-profile clientele. The property was co-owned by none other than Pam Bondi's husband, making it a place she had visited many times before without issue. Pam, the former Florida Attorney General and a well-known conservative commentator, stepped through the grand marble entrance with a weekend bag slung casually over her shoulder. Dressed in crisp white slacks and oversized sunglasses, she looked relaxed but purposeful. She wasn't in campaign mode. No media, no political aides, no security detail. Just a woman looking to unwind and enjoy a peaceful weekend by the water. But the moment she approached the front desk, the energy in the lobby seemed to shift. Conversations quieted. A few heads turned. Something subtle, yet unmistakable, hung in the air. The young woman behind the reception desk glanced up from her screen, expecting just another guest. But when her eyes landed on Pam, she froze briefly, then did a double take. "You're Pam Bondi?" she asked, her tone carrying more suspicion than surprise. Pam offered a polite smile and nodded. "Yes, I've got a room booked under my name." There was a pause. The receptionist didn't return the smile. Instead, she furrowed her brow, leaned forward toward her monitor and began typing slowly. She squinted at the screen, then muttered something under her breath that Pam couldn't quite catch. What should have been a seamless, routine check-in quickly took a strange turn. The hesitation, the scrutiny, it was all unexpected. And within moments, what began as a private getaway started spiraling into something far more public. A misstep was unfolding, and Pam sensed it was only just beginning. The receptionist, 24-year-old Chloe, was a recent college graduate with a degree in communications and a long-standing presence on social media, where she described herself as a progressive activist. Her feed was filled with bold opinions, retweets of protest flyers, and critiques of high-profile political figures, Pam Bondi among them. To her followers, Chloe was outspoken and principled. But now, standing behind the polished front desk of a five-star hotel, she found herself face-to-face with someone she had openly criticized online. She sighed audibly, folding her arms as she leaned forward across the granite counter. "Ma'am," she said, loud enough for those nearby to hear, "I'm not sure I feel comfortable checking you in. I don't agree with the things you've said about immigrants and women's rights." Pam blinked, momentarily stunned. "Excuse me?" Chloe didn't flinch. Her voice remained steady, even slightly raised. "I just don't think this hotel should be hosting people who promote hate." Across the lobby, a hush fell. A couple lounging on a velvet sofa looked up in disbelief. One of them whispered, "Is that Pam Bondi?" Another guest near the elevators pulled out their phone and began recording the scene. Pam, caught between confusion and restraint, kept her posture straight. "I'm a guest here. My husband co-owns this hotel. I've reserved this room like anyone else." Chloe gave a tight smirk. "Doesn't change how I feel." She thought she was standing her ground, making a statement. But what Chloe didn't realize was that her impulsive stance, while applauded in the echo chambers of social media, was about to have real-world consequences. The hotel had policies, protocols, and reputations to maintain, and within hours, Chloe's actions would go viral. Not as a hero, but as a cautionary tale. Within minutes, the video spread like wildfire. Shot vertically on a smartphone, the clip was shaky but clear enough to capture the tense exchange. The caption, bold and accusatory, read, "Receptionist refuses to check in Pam Bondi at her own husband's hotel." Social media exploded. On platforms like X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, the reactions poured in. Some praised Chloe, calling her brave and a woman of principle for standing up to a controversial figure. Hashtags like "Stand with Chloe" began trending. A handful of progressive influencers even invited her to speak on their live streams, but the backlash was far louder and far-reaching. Thousands condemned her actions, arguing that personal political beliefs should never interfere with professional duties, especially in the hospitality industry. If every receptionist acted like this, no one would ever get a hotel room, one tweet read, gaining over 50,000 likes. Others called for her firing, claiming she had embarrassed not only herself, but the entire brand. By the next morning, the outrage had reached the mainstream media. Conservative pundits seized on the story, labeling it another example of wokeness gone wild. Headlines blared across YouTube thumbnails and news tickers. Pam Bondi disrespected in her husband's hotel. When wokeness goes too far, receptionist confronts GOP icon. Hospitality or hostility, political bias at the front desk. Even neutral outlets like CNN and NBC covered the incident, citing the growing debate over professionalism versus political expression in the workplace. In response, the hotel's management team released a formal statement. "We sincerely apologize to Ms. Bondi for the behavior displayed at our front desk. It does not reflect our values. The employee has been suspended pending internal review." But the internet wasn't done yet, and the firestorm was still burning. Despite being publicly embarrassed and thrust into the center of a national controversy, Pam Bondi didn't lash out. She didn't slam the hotel, the employee, or even the media frenzy swirling around her. Instead, standing just outside the hotel entrance with cameras flashing and microphones pointed in her direction, she delivered a brief but impactful statement. "I believe everyone has a right to their opinion," she said evenly, "but there's a time and place for that. A hotel check-in desk isn't it." There were no demands for disciplinary action, no fiery tweets, no threats of lawsuits. Pam's composed and dignified response caught many off guard and earned her a wave of respect, even from corners typically critical of her. A well-known liberal podcaster posted, "I don't agree with Bondi politically, but she handled that like a pro. Class act." The tweet was shared thousands of times. Veterans, small business owners, and frontline hospitality workers began sharing their own stories online. Times when they'd encountered people they disagreed with politically, but still offered the same level of service. The consensus was clear: professional spaces must remain neutral ground. Meanwhile, Chloe's digital world was in chaos. Her accounts were flooded, some hailing her as a hero, others denouncing her as unprofessional and entitled. Within hours, she posted a shaky, tear-filled video to TikTok. "I didn't think it would get this big," she said, wiping her eyes. "But I stand by my beliefs. I just didn't expect this kind of attention." But beliefs, as many pointed out, don't absolve behavior, especially when that behavior humiliates a guest, damages a brand, and creates a PR nightmare. The hotel's review scores began dropping, and high-profile cancellations followed. The cost of Chloe's stance was quickly becoming very real. The hotel's ownership group, including Pam Bondi's husband, responded swiftly, not just to save face in the media, but to safeguard the long-term reputation of their luxury brand. Within 48 hours of the incident, they rolled out a new mandatory staff initiative, a professional development program titled "Respect Over Politics, Serving Guests with Integrity." The training focused on core hospitality principles: courtesy, neutrality, and professionalism, regardless of a guest's political beliefs or public profile. The revised employee handbook included clear language: All guests must be treated with dignity, regardless of political affiliation, ideology, or public persona. Internally, the message was firm. Political grandstanding had no place in customer service. Pam Bondi, for her part, didn't file a complaint or threaten legal action. She made no calls for boycotts or firings. She simply checked out the following morning, composed and graceful. As she exited the hotel, a small group of locals and well-wishers waited in the parking lot, holding handmade signs. Service means everyone. Pam, you're always welcome here. Respect, politics. She smiled, nodded, and waved in appreciation before being whisked away in a black SUV. What began as a local interaction had ignited a national discussion, one that transcended party lines. News outlets, talk shows, and editorial columns explored the deeper implications. How do personal beliefs intersect with public roles? What are the boundaries of protest in a professional setting? In the end, the moment served as a powerful reminder to millions. You can disagree with someone and still treat them with respect. Chloe's misstep had been deeply personal, but the lesson it carried was universal. In an increasingly divided society, professionalism remains one of the few bridges left standing.